facilities look like and to get up to speed. So we actually did 2 tours. A few people in the room actually joined us on those tours. And we started out, the first tour included Parkside, Mill Ridge, and Buckeye. And again, we just wanted to get a sense of what was going on and some of the things that might need to be corrected and really the overall material condition of the buildings. The second tour included Lamuth and the campus, and the tours were led by Rich Arlesic, and who's our maintenance director, and so we were able to ask questions, and pretty much we were able to see everything from from the heating systems to the classrooms to other issues that might be with the buildings. So with that new baseline, what we've asked Mr. Arlesic to do is to give us a prioritized list of issues by building, and he's going to present that at the next Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting, which is on July 18th at 7:30 a.m. It'll likely be over in the boardroom, and we'll take that into consideration. And my partner on the Buildings and Grounds Committee is Mrs. Grassi, and so we'll be receiving that. And then with that information, we plan to then have a work session so that we can kind of take what Mr. Arlesic presents and then work through the different strategies, different thoughts on how we can really make the facilities we have last into the future, and talk about other things we might do to make improvements to the district. So that is our way forward. I know many people are interested. We obviously had the ballot on May 2nd, so that is our way forward. I think it's a smart way to move, where there is no rush, but we understand people in the community want to see action, but we need to do it in a deliberate and methodical way so that we can do what's best for Riverside and spend taxpayer dollars in the most efficient and effective way possible. So I don't know, Mrs. Krasinski, is there anything else that you would add?
No. Do we want to talk about maybe sending out a dual poll to see when we can do a work session, or did everyone commit to a work session before the next board meeting to start with some planning? Is that?
Yeah, so I think a dual poll would be, we were not very successful in trying to schedule meetings during this meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, so, but the Buildings and Grounds meeting is on the 18th, so probably later than that. Is there anybody who's out of pocket the second half of July?
We only have a week before the board meeting.
Is it only a week?
Yeah, it's only a week. I mean, our board meeting is on the 28th, the Buildings and Grounds meeting is the 18th, so I'm not exactly sure.
Would we do a work session before?
It's the 18th, which I'm not, I think it's a Tuesday.
It's a Monday.
Okay.
So we have the rest of that week, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the following.
So I would say this, that, is there, potentially, I can't remember why we typically have the Buildings and Grounds earlier in the month, but I think that we had a conflict with people being out of pocket.
It would make sense to allow our administration to have some time to pull that prioritized list together and put that information together, so I'm fine with it staying on the 18th. I mean, I'm not sure if we want to move the work session and push it into early August, after our board meeting, so that we can actually present the information to the board and then have a work session.
So kind of working off the fly, I agree with you that it would be nice to have it before the next meeting, but I don't think it's a requirement. And maybe we could spend some time at our July meeting with Rich giving us just a presentation on some of the high points of things that we need to be done, so that we can help get the public up to speed on as to what's going on with the buildings. That would work.
Mr. Hach, I will be out of the state the 26th, 27th, and 28th of July for my daughter's wedding, which will be recorded.
Okay, well, we can talk about, we will have that list before then, and so
Yes.
we can substitute for you and just talk about some of the things that are going on. If that works, then we can aim for early August for our work session.
So give an update at the 28th meeting on what you learned, and then try to do the work session in early August.
Does that work? Does that make sense?
I think time's of the essence, but we want to go another month and a half before we really talk about nuts and bolts, then I'll go along with that, but I think it's an unnecessary delay. I say that because we've been working with Mr. Weiss going through Riverside. We've completed Riverside inventorying every single room. We did that to the offices. But what we're doing is counting all the ceiling tiles, outlets, light fixtures, bulbs, and everything else in the room, and even in the hallways. So what we're doing is compiling a pretty comprehensive list of what we have. And I know that Mr. Arlesic, through the tours and other discussions we've had and things that he knows, is putting together a list, and that's going to be very helpful, of course. I think that we need to hire an owner's agent, owner's representative, to start from day one in this process. And it's probably unrealistic to have that in our work session, but it might not be a bad idea to start interviewing people so we could incorporate that person. They will be working very closely with everyone, especially Mr. Arlesic. The importance of that is so that we can be organized and effective and efficient with every dollar we spend. And having that person start at the very beginning in the planning process, I think, is very important. At least that's been my experience in my construction. And so, in going through the buildings, I think that there's some low-hanging fruit that we could start to move forward on if the board would agree. And that low-hanging fruit would be windows. A good number of the windows in this building do not function properly. We've even had an injury to a student because a window fell on their fingertips with blood all over the floor. That was a disconcerting event. I think that's something we want to try and stay away from. I think we want to have the best work environment we can for the teachers, staff, and administration, and certainly the best learning environment for the students. I mean, that's what we're here for. So I would say that with the cash on hand that we have, we could look at ordering windows and putting out a bid for labor only to replace all the windows in Riverside, John R., and possibly Melridge and Buckeye. I estimate that would probably cost about $1.6 million. So anyway, I'm just putting some of these thoughts out there, a little bit of building information, and I think that delays do not help anybody. But if that's what has to happen, of course I'll go along with that. But I think that we would really want to look at getting an owner's agent going and possibly getting the windows going.
Yeah, so I guess my concern is that security is one of the number one things we heard from the community, the staff, and everybody here. And I don't think we have a good handle on what we want to do as far as security. So I think that's where us having a working session, taking a look at the strategic plan and all we can put from the community, the administration, the staff, parents, and figuring out where do we want to focus first. So putting windows in is great, but at the same point, we got to figure out what windows. We don't have that information. We haven't got a review of what we can do to help make sure these schools are secure or where we want to start.
So what windows would be just about every window in these buildings?
I get it, but I guess we don't know what we're looking for yet, is my point.
I think we do. I mean, I've had Cleveland Construction out and gotten some advice from one of their representatives, and I said I had another person out that we spent some time with and got some information from them, and they just completed the school project, an updating project. And so I think we have a lot of information if one is familiar with construction. We're looking at Energy Star windows. You can't get a better rated window than that. And these are windows. So replacing windows is, like I said, low-hanging fruit. And looking at the sally ports, the entryways, to have them safe. Have the booth here, Melridge and Buckeye. Certainly that's going to take a lot more planning than just buying and ordering windows and having someone take them out and put them in. So the safety issues that we're talking about is going to take a comprehensive plan with the windows. That would be really simple and easy to do.
But I guess my point is, why would we put in windows if we do a safety consult later that tells us we need different windows? So that's what I'm saying, there's got to be a long-term,
I'm
larger
trying to
plan.
explain it to you. The Energy Star windows can't get better than that.
So I don't feel this board has had enough opportunity to explore the options and to explore the priority list that the administration is going to put forward. I I believe 6 weeks is sufficient time for them to put this information together for us to have a work session, because then we can actually have conversation as a board. We can't make decisions based on one person's opinion. We have to make a decision based on the board having full disclosure and full information on all kinds of things, and we haven't done that yet. And so probably talking about windows is premature. That's a big process. That's a lot of money. We'd have to hire architects. Like, that stuff has to go out to bid. And I don't think as a board we've even discussed, hey, that's the first thing we want to do. I don't necessarily know that everybody feels that way. So, like, allowing the Buildings and Grounds Committee to get the information and then disseminating that to the board and having some conversation in our next meeting, I think is appropriate. And then having a work session, at least from my perspective, early in August, seems to make the most sense to me.
And I would concur, but I also concur with something that Mr. Hach said, that just as we did with the building of the schools, we had an owner's representative, and I think that I don't think we can get that done before our work session, but I think having an owner's representative as part of the equation would make a lot of sense. And Mr. Arlesic, he already has a full-time job, and so trying to add different initiatives that we would come to consensus on top of his work, this is not practical. So we really do need kind of in my opinion, we need an owner's representative and maybe really a project manager or something like that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So an owner's representative, I mean, they're like a liaison between the architect and the board. But that would be like saying we want to engage an architect to assist us with this process, and I don't have a problem with that. I agree, we probably need some outside consultation. We know experts, they're beneficial to have. I just don't know if that's what we normally refer to as an owner's agent.
So
just having a consultant, I think, would be
Let me ask you
appropriate.
that they're not just a liaison between the architect and the board, they are intimately involved in the project, vetting contractors, subcontractors, and everything that's going on in the project. So they're intimately involved if they're doing their job. If they're just a liaison between the board and the architect, then we're not getting what we should get from an owner's agent or representative.
I don't know, I think we could have those conversations and again, figure out what we want to engage as a consultant, what kind of qualifications we'd have to put out an RFP for that.
I even think it's all premature because we haven't decided any kind of way what direction we're moving in with buildings yet.
Right.
And then we need to have that, we need to get the buildings around on the 18th and get that list from Rich and everything else before we do any of those things. We're not there.
Right, no,
At all.
I definitely agree, just putting some getting on the wall and seeing what sticks, but I do think that it's something along those lines of hiring a project manager or construction project manager or something along those lines, something in this general ballpark of what we're discussing would behoove us ultimately in ensuring that we end up with the improvements that we wanted for the prices that we agreed to pay.
And
I
ideally,
think once we decide what those improvements
That's
are.
absolutely right.
Right.
and ideally, that person would be involved even when Mr. Arlesic puts forth his list. Now, it's going to be a little too fast and too soon for that to happen. But putting out a notice for bid, if you will, a bid isn't really the right way to go, because the only way you can hire someone like that is, in my opinion, is to interview people to see what they can offer. And the person that can offer involvement from the very beginning to all the way to the completion, I think is what's most valuable and important. But if we take this one step at a time and delay each thing for each item that we do, we're definitely going to take an extra year to do this process. If that's what the board deems it wants to do, okay. I'm just looking at, there's some things we could do right now if we wanted to as a board.
Mr. Hach, you said we used an owner's agent previously?
We
At
did,
one time?
we did. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but we had,
David Ryan, he's more of a legal, quasi-owner representative type of individual. You think about owner's representative, owner's agent, there's a whole different scope. I mean, it's kind of undefined, so you can be having it as intense or, you can kind of up to the district and board.
all of the sleeves are just.
How detailed, how much it is, and typically we would do a request for qualification process like we do for an architect, and you pick the most qualified firm or individual, and then you negotiate a contract with them. Once that if you're unable to negotiate a contract, and you go to the second most qualified to put in a request for qualifications.
Right, and typically they're right now about $160 to $165 an hour. And that's what the typical pay is for a person that's going to be involved in the project. Again, having someone involved would be important. One small example is vetting the contractors and subcontractors that would be doing the work is important. And one small item is the roofing contractor that did the new buildings is located in Indiana. And when we recently had a problem and needed repairs on the work that they had performed, we had to spend about $2,600 to pay someone locally, because you certainly can't communicate with someone in Indiana when that happens. So you would eliminate things like that.
When you put the bid out, the request for qualification process, how long does that stay open? People to put in their,
Usually it's 2-3 weeks to a month approximately. I know we did architects, we've done 2, 3, or 4 weeks.
You know, we did interviews.
You maybe interview whoever puts in the proposal, kind of see what the qualifications are, and be comfortable with them.
And again, an owner's agent would do the work for us, because none of the board members is going to vet the contractors and subcontractors. I don't think you're going to. I don't think Superintendent Kalis is going to do that. We need someone representing us that can do all of that work to make sure we have the best possible product.